This is the review of the horror movie The Bye Bye Man, which I did see. If you don't want spoilers, then obviously you know what to do, which would be stop watching this video or pause it and then go to another website or search for another video or something. It is a horror movie that I did see. I'm going to start with its flaws. Its flaws being the Bye Bye Man. It's never explained with it's never explained with who the Bye Bye Man was before he was the Bye Bye Man, how he became the Bye Bye Man, what is he exactly, and what are his motives. And as a result, that I really hate. It just makes him feel like a very bland, dull villain of he's simply just a evil villain. It's simply just an evil villain, a simple black hat that is using evil actions because he's a simple evil villain. He also has it's a hellhound or it's a supernatural dog, and again, that's never explained by what is this creature or monster exactly. If it was an ordinary dog, how did it become a monster dog or a supernatural dog? And so there's that. Again, not explained. Then the other weakness that is a major weakness is this does have brutal deaths, and they are brought up. But again, most of them are happening off screen. Result of happening off screen, then that removes a lot of excitement. And so basically, it's like they wanted a horror movie. They wanted to have brutal violence, including that of deaths. But since most of them are happening off the screen, they're hugely making a sanitized horror movie, and they succeeded. They highly succeeded. So those are the two big flaws. Going on to strengths, there's the location. Can't remember where it is in Wisconsin, but it's somewhere in Wisconsin, and it's not a major city. It's some place that I've never heard of that's in Wisconsin. So it's likely a unique location that I don't imagine has been used for other Hollywood horror movies. There's also the characters of basic plot. The plot of it is, which is also decent, of you have Sasha, her boyfriend Elliot's friend John, and Kim, and they all decide to do a seance. And as a result, somehow the Bye Bye Man gets summoned, and he's able to torment and terrorize these four persons by manipulating their vision so they'll see things that are not there. And he's able to he's also able to move towards them, and as a result, the worst case scenario being is the person reacts to the things that aren't there, that of their vision being manipulated with violence, and not just violence, murdering being the worst case, violence being one of the worst case, including obviously murder. So, and that does happen, except again, since most of it happens off screen. So there's that. That's the basic plot of it. And then it's Elliot. They're all dealing with this problem, still going about their normal lives, but they're dealing with this problem. And it's Elliot trying to find a solution to this problem. That's the basic plot of it, along with all of them living their ordinary lives after moving into a new house. And there's also Elliot's uncle, and he has a little girl daughter. And I gotta say, of all these characters, they're all likable characters, which is great because it's a common huge flaw that Hollywood makes. It's been making horror movies for several years, and for some reason they have either no likable characters or mostly no likable characters. And I think, and I also then you also have the Bye Bye Man and his Hellhound, which aren't shown that much, which I would agree with isn't a problem if the brutal deaths are happening on screen. But since they're not, then, well, it's hard to get an impression of how powerful the Bye Bye Man is if we're just gonna if it's doing the whole telling us about the brutal deaths, but we're not seeing it. And one of the biggest things I've heard with other movie reviews, or a rule of making movies, is show, don't tell, show, and they do more telling than they do of showing. And yeah, Bye Bye Man, as far as physical appearance, it's unique. Along with this Hellhound, it's also unique. It's terrifying. It's great. I don't think it is. I don't think the look of this whatever he is, the Bye Bye Man and this Hellhound, I don't think they look cheap at all. I don't think they look bad or lame. I think they look terrifying, and that's great because that's what they're supposed to be. So there's that. And then moving on to another thing, another one of this movie's strengths is, even though it has a sequel bait ending being obvious, because at the end, for the end of the movie, is because Elliot, he throws out the nightstand, which contains writing on "Don't say it, don't think it," and if a person looks at that and they're able to search for the Bye Bye Man, they'll find out that we get summoned. And if a person says, who answers the question of who's been terrorizing them or who's been haunting them, and they say the Bye Bye Man, that other person gets infected, and the Bye Bye Man will be able to manipulate their vision and use them as pawns. So its power is basically like a virus, that because if you tell a person of who's been tormenting you, who's been haunting you, then he's going to be able to manipulate their vision. And the only known way for it to stop is the person kills the persons they know, along with killing themselves. And yes, Elliot dies. Elliot mistakenly kills Sasha because he thought he was saving Sasha. Instead, Bye Bye Man manipulated his vision. He mistakenly kills his girlfriend Sasha. For some reason, John dies. Elliot sees that it's mostly hopeless. He doesn't want to continue to go on living after seeing that he killed his girlfriend, and he doesn't want to infect his uncle and take the chance. So he does, I think he stabs himself to commit suicide or kills himself somehow, and the house goes on fire. And that's the basic climax is Elliot racing home, Elliot races home, John has his vision manipulated, that he's seeing the dead corpse of Kim when he's not seeing the dead corpse of Kim when it's actually Sasha, and Sasha's confused because from what she knows of, she doesn't know that he's seeing something else with his vision. And John decides to react with violence and try and kill what he thinks is the corpse of Kim. And and then Elliot comes in again believing that he's saving his girlfriend Sasha, when really he's killing Sasha, who he mistakenly sees, he's seen his vision being manipulated. He sees John, but it's really Sasha, and he mistakenly kills his girlfriend Sasha. And the daughter of the uncle that had to go to the bathroom but wasn't able to go in because the door was locked, and Elliot didn't want them to come in and most likely see not only what is happening, but most likely get infected with Elliot having to answer what exactly happened. Like the Bye Bye Man is responsible for tormenting Kim, myself, John, and Sasha. So it's shown off. It happens off screen that the dad tells the daughter because she really has to go to the bathroom. She goes in the woods, and the while she's able to see that there is a nightstand and does have writing. This is a very low light. So because it's in low light, she's not able to read the words. And both the dad the dad is driving away. The dad is driving away in the pickup along with the daughter and he tells tells him there is a nightstand and it did have writing on it, and he asks what exactly did it say, and she brings up the fact that this was low lit and she's not some night bird or something with night vision. She wasn't able to read it, so that was a huge bullet dodged. But again, at the end, I love that. This is a huge strength for this movie. At the end, instead of the instead of the typical lame ass dumb ending of where the villain returns for a jump scare. Instead, it ends with the night table being shown along, and that's it. The night table is shown, and since it's out in the open, it's undeniable that sequel bait ending that someone else is likely going to see it, read it, and then search for the Bye-Bye Man, and then it starts all over again. But again, I love this ending, which doesn't have the typical lame ass overused movie in horror of where the villain of where again it's overused, and I hate the lame ass endings of where in horror movies of a villain undeniably loses in the climax, but then for the ending the villain returns for a jump scare. So it's basically like they want to have a cake and eat it too, of you have a happy outcome in the climax, but they still want a bad ending with the villain returns for a jump scare to make it a bad ending, which is highly illogical because the villain lost in the climax, so logic dictates that you should just have a happy ending. Unless, of course, it came at a huge price, then it becomes a bittersweet ending. But again, if the villain lost in the climax, this was without any negative price, then just have a happy ending. Do not have the dumbness of the villain. Don't try and have a cake and eat it too, with still the villain returns for a jump scare, because if you want to have a bad ending, I'm not going to object to that for a horror movie, but have it be logical with the villain actually wins in the climax, so logic dictates it'd be logical that it'd be a sad ending, not the villain loses in the climax, but a jump scare negative ending. So even though it had a undeniable sequel bait ending, I'm just glad it avoided that lame ass, overused cliche for horror movies that gets overused. And as a result of, I was entertained from start to finish, but now evaluating it, seeing that it could have been good, could have been better, and I listed those two primary flaws, including about the Bye-Bye Man, the Hellhound, and most of the brutal deaths are not happening on screen. That is why, in my opinion, this horror movie is not that it's a bad movie. It's not that it's a terrible movie. It's mediocre. Could have been better. If you have those two weaknesses, is you have them altered, then I'm either viewing this movie either as good or great. But because it has those two undeniable weaknesses, that is why in my opinion, this horror movie, while entertaining from start to finish, is mediocre, because Look at those flaws, those undeniable, obvious two flaws. I know could have been either good or could have been great. Said it isn't. It's mediocre. It executed in a number of other areas, but those are two primary flaws that for me I can't overlook and say that this is a good or a great horror movie. But still, I recommend that you see it.